Now, if you imagine if you were to stabilize all the great players that technically are coming from New York and make sure that they stay home, now you're forcing everyone outside of the States to come to New York and compete because all the best players are here. So if you want to get recognized and say that you're the best, you have to play the best, you have to come to New York. Instead, New York is being forced to go out so this way you can compete. If I'm not mistaken too, most of the majority of the companies outside of New York are picking up New York players. And that's a known fact, a well-known fact. So I don't know about LOL or anything else, but I'm talking about fighting games in general. I'm sorry if I didn't clarify that. But fighting games in general, most of the majority of the fighting game players are getting picked up from outside companies and having them represent them. So if we are to find a way to stabilize as of like getting great tournaments, on a weekly basis, if it's possible, because you gotta understand, there's a lot of tournaments being run throughout the States, a lot of them, especially when it comes to Smash. Smash probably have, like 1,000 tournaments throughout the year. It's ridiculous, and these guys are flying back and forth. They probably even get to see their families, how much they're playing. But the money is there for the Smash players to collect. Now, when it comes to the smaller games like Guilty Gear and, I want to say like anime games and stuff like that, there's just nothing, there's no company backing for it. Sometimes the community has to invest to have some type of big pot for everyone to come out. And sometimes it's not worth it. That's why you also see, if you guys follow fighting games, like for Killer Instinct, there's a Killer Instinct World Cup at the end of the year. They're having a Capcom Pro Tour Cup at the end of the year. You having these big, massive, once in a lifetime tournaments at the end of the year that's gearing up to it, like qualifiers. So I think that the way to go maybe is a lot of qualifiers throughout the city, that where you cannot get into this big pot tournament, you have to win the qualifier to get into the tournament. ESL, I would say, right now is really, I would say, reviving the scene, considering the fact that now it's like, I believe it's a walk-in, right? Like you have to pay a fee to get into the tournament, am I correct? Right. So that alone is great. You're going to see a whole bunch of players that you've probably never seen before. And of course, you're going to see a lot of notable players. So if we start to continue to keep doing that, we will start to see a lot of the players coming out wanting to participate. You have to get people out of the house. People are too comfortable. We do have to blame the companies for that too. Considering the fact that they killed the arcade scene, we were forced to play at home. And so now if you're looking for that brand new game, it's on console. It's not an arcade. So we can't be able to go out publicly and enjoy being face to face with that's the human emotion. We're eliminating that. People are stuck at home playing, and they're playing like, young kids who are cursing at you. That's what we have come to. So we need to bring back that human, raw, emotion where it's live, where people can be hyped and enjoy themselves. The entertainment level has to be at a high, especially when it comes to New York. There's no excuses. It has to be that high. You have to set the bar high. Everybody wants it high. That's just how it is. So, I pray that ESL, if you guys need any help, I'm pretty sure everyone here will be willing to help out ESL, We have to do something. The companies also have to reach out to the smaller companies too. We're working hard. We want to, be a part of the scene. That's why we invested our own money to do so. You get what I'm saying? That's why it's not about us. It's about the community. If we have a passion for something, that's the reason why we're doing it in the first place. We want people to enjoy it and have a good time and make them come out so they can have, enjoy and have memories about, hey, I went to this event. It was great. I had a wonderful time, and I expect to go back all the time because the people are nice. I don't like being at home because I have people raging on me on LOL. Instead, I can have people who actually want to enjoy, have fun, pick random characters that they normally don't play on a serious note, and just enjoy themselves. And I think that's what we need to do on that level. Like Triforce said, casual is so important. It's so important because it will bring the community together. And then if people want to go to the next level and play on a serious note, then that's on your own terms.
One last thing I wanted to add, I guess, like, what does New York need to blow up in esports, right? Like, I think we kind of covered it, actually, when we talked about venue costs are too high, internet is too hard to come by. Like, that's actually really fixable. Like, we should team up, like, we should get our voices, all of our communities behind us. We should go send a letter to, like, the mayor, I'm not kidding, and be like, yo, dude, like, why don't you open this place for gamers to rent for cheap, high quality internet? We can all use it. We can have tournaments. People will be flying into New York City. People will be organizing tournaments in our town. Yeah, you'll get tourists. You'll be on stream. Everyone's talking about how dope New York City is. Like, you want that for your town, and I think that we should do something like that.
Sounds like you just do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Actually, get in touch with me towards the end. There's going to be something like that.
Alright, cool.
Glad we beat you there, buddy. This guy might. The scout has some broken work.
When we're all pushing for more money to be coming into esports and more regulation and more structure and more organization, like, some of the things that makes esports magical, in my opinion, is that people like us, everyday people with no background whatsoever, decided one day I'm gonna get into esports, and they just like went and they did something, they were able to build something from it. And like, my history in esports is like this blip. I've only been doing it for 2 years, these guys for a lot longer, but like, what happens when, like ESL shows up and they're like, okay, this is where things are going to happen now. Like, this is where the community is going to come together now. This is where events are going to be held. Like, what happens to us? And like, that's something where, you hope that the future of the industrial revolution of esports is going to be going to hold on to that grassroots stuff that makes this magical. Like, I went to my first Smash tournament not too long ago, and I was shocked that I could just like go talk to Mango like anytime. I was just like, holy shit, he's right there, and like I can go talk to him, like, and there's no like, you can't do that in any other sport, right? Like, it's just so grassroots. Like, yeah, it's because like, he's not like loaded, doesn't have bodyguards and stuff like Faker, I guess, but like, I don't know, there's a certain magic to it all, and it'd be a really big shame if somehow we all get caught up in this industrial revolution that esports is going through right now and we lose that. So that's just like one thing for thought, I guess, and yeah, absolutely, I'm down to work with all of you guys, however we can basically magic happen. So yeah.
In some form or another, we came a long way. We all had a dream. We all believed that we can make this work no matter what, even if it cost us the money that we didn't have and the time that we couldn't use. But I can say that from then and now, being around for a long time in the gaming community, we've come a long way. Just to mention a few key things that I thought that would never happen. Now we have rappers, coming to sit next to us to watch the game on the stadium. We have retired basketball players creating an esports team now. And I just see these things, and I just say to myself, we have an avenue to relate to everyone else now who didn't know about the esports or leagues or teams and things of that nature, or the competitive scene of any genre for that nature. Now I can go to my uncle and say, hey, Rick Fox, owns a team now. He may not know about the gaming scene, but he knows Rick Fox, so that may help people be a little bit more engaged. So the time has passed where now, it is starting to open up, and as this gentleman here mentioned as well, there is a slight fear. Esports is here, and now we have ESL coming in now, and what may happen to us. The only thing I can say is, hopefully we'll still be around it in some form,
I think there's always going to be a place for local communities. No matter how big esports gets, you're going to need to round up the guys in your local neighborhood, go take over a bar and just play some games. I don't think bigger esports will ever take that out of local communities. And same with local tournaments. There can be great international tournaments. They get organized throughout the year, but the hardcore players, they need their weeklies, and who's going to do that? That's going to be the local crowd.
Hey guys, so let's break it down. So on October 1st and 2nd, we're having ESL 1 New York at the Barclays Center, right? we have 18,000 seats to fill up. And if you can fill them all up, how do we work with you guys to fill them all up so that next year, not only do we have one ESL 1, maybe we have 2, maybe we have an IEM, we have a DreamHack, we have an ESL Pro League Finals. So how do we make this event a success? Because we've had 2 ESL 1 New Yorks before, but they've been Dota 2 events. This is the first time we're taking a risk, going CSGO and Counter-Strike. CSGO and Street Fighter. So Street Fighter, it was kind of like a personal passion of mine, and I believed it could fill up, the stadium, and I believe it could completely fill out its bracket. So how do I work with you guys, your communities, in order to make that a success, so we can make we can make esports in New York a success?
I know you're going to say no, but franchising license, let us do it. Seriously. I don't know if you guys.
What do you mean by franchising?
Like, just let us have an ESL chapter franchise. We all come together. The actual, heart and soul of New York gaming come together, and we do it. Something like that.
What do you mean exactly by that? Can you just
You franchise the ESL brand to us collectively as an organization or whatever, and we make it happen on that grassroots level.
So the big problem with that is publishers. Everything ESL does, we work with publishers because we get like $1 million tournaments and we have to have everything noted down. So if you're doing let's say we're doing Street Fighter, everything we do is extremely scrutinized by Capcom. So if we kind of franchise it out to local tournaments, we can't have Capcom look at 1,000 different tournaments and then make sure every one of them is up to their standards. So that's a problem with ESL franchising.
So you can't do no qualifiers.
So we are doing qualifiers.
Okay.
For CSGO especially. For the Street Fighter scene, it's an open tournament, so you can come in, you can play over the 2-3 days, and that's kind of our built-in qualifier system over there.
I mean, it would bring some attention if you would do a qualifier to where people could get into the venue for free. I mean, that alone is.
So if Street Fighter was a proven enough product, like CSGO is, that's why we have a big. So if Street Fighter was like a big enough product that we know we could fill seats all over, we know we can get a lot of people, then we would have qualifiers beforehand and bring them in. So the problem with Street Fighter is, problem with fighting game community is they're so broken apart, and we're not really sure how successful they can be as an esports if we have one. And I personally believe it's one of the biggest esports out there, fighting game community, and it's a passion project of mine. So if you can prove that Street Fighter can do it, then we'll get more fighting game communities, fighting games in there.
So pretty much. Let's do the first tournament, and then we'll go on from there.
Absolutely, because if we could make Street Fighter a year of success, next year we'll have much bigger events.
So one of the things I can say, aside from his first best option, obviously, we all have our groups, I would say. Defend the North is one of the events where they all come together, but we still have the groups that still don't want to take it that seriously, where they want to go in the casual scene, but they would still understand that there's other things to do other than play in the tournament, which is, of course, being in ESL, that would be in a stadium or stage kind of setting where they can see something and enjoy it. But we all have our own groups where we have people who I don't want to say dedicate themselves to it, but they're a big fan of ours and of our events. So they're constant followers, they're constant participators and supporters. So, I would say, getting us involved would be a great portion of that. We all are figureheads in the scene in some sort of way, and I think that's one of the ways that helps it.
That's definitely something I want to do, but what's the next step? Like, how do we get involved?
Okay, so 2 parts, and this would answer the questions, but the first thing that we have is there's this fear. It's a fear that does not, I don't know why it doesn't exist. Believe it or not, because I talk with the community on the forums, on the Armblast Show and all these other places, which is crazy, but the biggest fear is the community thinks that the suits, that's what we call the guys, the suits are going to come in and take over. And there's something that the community needs to understand. There's a threshold that the community can carry esports, and then it stops. We can't carry it any further. Organizations like ESL literally are built to come in to network with the community. They're not overseers or slave masters or anything. They're not interested in controlling and that we have all this money, we own everyone now. And I don't want to speak for you, but this is what I'm based on what I know, because I've worked with the organizations, not necessarily ESL directly, but I've worked with organizations like ESL in the past. Their major thing that they want to do is that they want to network with the community, but at the same time they have to be careful because the community is self-destructive. Now, I'm just keeping it 100% real. The community is self-destructive, and that these big corporations can't really get integrated with the community like that. They don't mind working with a couple of the leaders, getting feedback from them. We go back and we work with the community, come back, exchange information with them, and then they can take that information and create an infrastructure that then gets it out there and work with the community. But when they meet with the community, it's really with the leaders who can help them communicate with the community. So I just wanted to dispel this fear that they're here to take over. They're not here to take over. They're here to take us to the next level because we can't get there. And anyone who thinks they can, I'm letting you know. I've been trying for 15 years. We're not going to get there without them. A lot of these guys are actual corporate businesses. They have huge corporate business backgrounds and they like video games, as opposed to us. We love video games and we're trying to get to their level. So earlier when I mentioned, we have to build that bridge where we get together to take it to the next level. And now to answer your question directly, what is it that ESL can do with the community, with these guys? I think if there can be some type of powwow, a meeting with ESL and the community, sit down behind closed doors and have Google, Facebook, and a lot of these big corporations, they do that, and they have like a conference, so to speak, to discuss business development, to help. What's the scene like? What are the numbers? Do you guys, Andy has an entire list of the type of people that qualify or that are coming out to defend their money. James has a database of all the people that he deals with his esports, and so does every other organization. I think ESL needs to get that information so that you guys can sit down and formulate how is it that ESL is going to work with these organizations that connect directly with the community to take esports in New York to the next level.
I just wanted to say that at first hand, I embraced the opportunity. I didn't fear the suits, as you were saying. But the first thing I did was get with my administration to contact ESL and see if we can cross promote. Because I think that will be a definite way of the hundreds of people or the thousands that will pay attention to Defend the North and the hundreds that will be present there. To show presence of ESL. So I contacted them and they said that they don't want to conflict with Capcom Pro Tour. So that's where it's like, okay, is that an invitation? Is that not? You know what I mean?
Well, this is what I'm talking about now. The corporations, they have policies and regulations that they have to work with. This is why information gathering is so important. It's not so much about, okay, they're here, we're here, let's do something together, and then we get a no. The no has a reason, and you have to understand that they're a business. They have their people they have to answer to, just like as the community has its concerns, and we have to answer to the players. So what has to happen is we have to get both sides to come together and find that, not the conformity, but the compromise in the middle that makes it work for the community and the community organizers and the suits and their constituents. That's the way you do business. We can't we're not, like you said, we're all older now. We need to get into business now. This is how business works. And one of the problems with esports back then is none of this was done back then. That's why it took so long. This is why you're looking behind. But we're all older now. We all have a lot more common sense. And I hope some of us have a lot more business acumen. And this is a first start. Game Chat has provided us a platform that has gotten the first line of communication thrown over. ESL clearly, this just goes to show you how much they want to work with the community. They sent someone down here. When has this ever happened before in the 15 years of New York? Never. So this is a good start, and I think we're going to see some.
One is Madison Square Garden. It's sold out for an esports event. It's insane.
We're going to see it sold out again. Yeah, trust me.
But my idea, man, you know, I've been doing a lot of thought leadership this year on like Twitch marketing. You know, a lot of people fail at Twitch marketing. Was trying to find a good way to actually have a reliable conversion funnel. Like one of the best we've come up with is like promo codes on overlays on stuff. But some of the most successful Twitch marketing has been through custom executions. And if you want to get New Yorkers to fill that whole stadium, you're going to have to tap into some of the pride of being a New Yorker, right? Like basically what Bud Light All-Stars did, do something like that, like New York All-Stars, where the community, you know, crowdsources the decision making and nominates the best New York All-Stars, and you announce it there or something. You got to get that. You got to tap into that pride. I'm a New Yorker. I'm proud of being a New Yorker. I'm going to come to support New York, like the New York, you know, banner or whatever it is. So something like that. So it's cut. You know, the principles are like it needs to be original, it needs to be authentic, it needs to be fun. You can't be too serious about it. It has to be humility, and you have to have all these factors come in. That dispels some of the suits. You know, if you're fun and self-deprecating about it and stuff, people won't be so scared or turned off or whatever. But tap into that regional pride.
Couple points to make. I think for me, what gets me interested in a tournament or anything else is a story. So like I wasn't watching Apex 2016 until I heard that M2K got upset by someone in Smash 4, and I was like, oh shit, now I'm gonna watch this. So the best advice I can give to you is as you're promoting it, think about what the storylines are, and that's probably the only thing that you should be marketing is what are the storylines that are going to be interesting to people, what are the teams that are going to be playing, what are the characters that are going to be in on those teams, how can we make this interesting for someone to watch? I don't think it's enough to just say, okay guys, esports is in your backyard, so come, like we built it, you got to come now, right? Like you definitely want to push the story of what's going on in the tournament, and maybe you can talk about like what's at stake. Like this is like ESL's betting on the community to show up, and you need us to come and rep for you and like make a push for esports. I think that's an okay message to. Maybe it's not one you want to tell like explicitly, but like you told us here. But like, and I think that's like we're all going to help you now. I think the other thing. I think the other thing to do that you can do a little bit better with relation to the suits comment, the franchise comment, like I think this gets at all of that, is have more of a grassroots presence. And so there are several really easy ways you can do that. The first one is you could say, okay, there's 5 of us on stage. Collectively, we have an email list of CSGO and Street Fighter 5 people, like 30,000 people, I'm sure, and we can like just blast them and like give us $1 per person to get the sign up buy ticket for you. I don't think that's the best tactic. I don't think that's like the smart thing to do. I think to be really smart about it, you can say, okay, these guys are doing everything that's going on in New York City right now. What if I gave these guys like their ESL payroll that's obviously not like a full-time thing or anything, but it's like they're going to wear an ESL jersey at their events, they're going to have something that's like sponsoring whatever, their content, and when we have an ESL event, they're going to be like obligated to basically steer the community to come to that thing. I think that's a really smart way that you can have a permanent, year-long presence on the ground, grassroots in every different community. I don't think ours overlap very much. Like I do PC stuff, you guys do a lot of fighting game stuff, but I think what's cool about that idea is not only do you get the boost from ESL being at all of our events and all of our things, but you also have the benefit of enabling us to do better things, because like we are literally putting in every single dollar we have into these events that we're doing, and if it's like, oh wow, we have an extra $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a year each to be doing something more amazing, that's going to have ESL's name attached to it. Like wow, like ESL made that happen. So that's my 2 cents.
Hi, I know some of you guys already. My name is Jennifer Vargas. I am the CEO and founder of GG Vogue, which is a marketing and esports company. We do event planning. We've actually worked with a lot of the gentlemen that are on the panel today. And we've actually worked with ESL One and we've worked with Riot Games. And something that we've always seen is there isn't sort of like a community manager presence when it comes to these big entities. They're not reaching out to the community. So it's up to us to represent these talented guys, these communities, create proposals and marketing deck to show that they have a presence, that they have the influence, that they have the following. And a lot of the times what you're seeing is, yes, they don't have a venue. Yes, they don't have the equipment. Yes, they don't have the Wi-Fi, but they're able able to bring people to these locations. If you nurture the community, if you nurture the grassroots, you're going to see a lot of people come to your events. When we worked with Sonic Boombox, which is the parent company for Mash Fest, we did a Riot Games after party. 800 attendees came, most of them from out of state, most of them were from in-state. And that was something that Riot Games had no idea. We approached Riot Games and we say, hey, we're having an after party. And they turned around and they supported it. When Dota 2 was at Madison Square Garden, we also reached out to ESL 1, not having reached out to the community first. And you see that happen more often than not. And it's not the company's fault. They're focused on the production aspect. But when you don't turn around and try to invest back into the community and reach out, there's a discrepancy and there becomes a gap. And then there's a gap of knowledge. You have the knowledge how to connect to the community. You have the knowledge as an industry, as ESL 1, to create the production. And what I've learned is that there's no middle ground, which is why I started my marketing agency and decided that there needs to be a mediator. There needs to be someone who can understand video games. I've played video games my whole life. I run an eSports, I'm a marketing rep for an eSports, Onslaught eSports as well. And I understand the professional aspect. And there's two things that's going to kill esports, and I'm telling you. It's the toxicity in the community, and it's going to be the professionalism. Esports is on its way to becoming professionalized. You see these gentlemen here who have full-time jobs, but at the same time are pinching pennies, and they're making it work because they know the value of it, and they know how to be able to execute it. So my question to you guys, though, and I know that, you guys are all awesome, but the reason why a lot of, and this goes back to Triforce, casual gamers are the market. The problem is that there's a stigma with video games. You're seeing mass shootings and video games as being the scapegoat. So when you start talking about video game competition, the casual gamer, the person that has no idea about esports, they've already had a bad taste. Who here, and I'm gonna ask you, which one of you are doing philanthropy work to make your community more distinct so that when you start talking about esports, there is some sort of good in it?
One of the problems New York has, and you mentioned it, it's a lot of fragmentation inside the scene with all the leaders and the different brands. The brands don't understand that they can all just come together and work together and become one super powerhouse. But the cliques, leaders, watch what I say. Leaders in certain aspects of the scene have this thing out for New York and the East Coast. There's this image, I don't know if you guys had to have seen this on Facebook. They show you West Coast gaming, and it's all these professional guys and everything. And when they show you East Coast, it's gangs and rappers and stuff like that. And that's a terrible, terrible image. That's the distinction when people think about the East Coast. But we, SOS Gamers just hosted a Smash Brothers charity. I worked with a couple of people to try to bring this together, to bring a new type of Smash Brothers for the New York scene, the tri-state area, as part of the Northeast Fighting Game Redevelopment Plan for the Northeast. And the very fighting game community and Smash community blacklisted the event because I was involved. Just because I was promoting it, they blacklisted the event. This toxicity that you're talking about will always be in this in the scene, and it doesn't matter what esport game you're talking about. It's all over the place. So I don't want people to, that's just a fighting game community. That's not true, because I've been in almost every esport scene there is. It exists everywhere. It's going to stay like that until the suits get involved. The suits have to get involved because the suits are the only ones who are going to be partial. As long as the suits are not involved, there's going to be cliques. Hey, you shouldn't work with that guy, man, because you know what I'm talking about, Andy. We've gone through this crap before. And this is why we have to come together as New York, because when we come together as New York, we work with companies like ESL. ESL doesn't care about any of that. Listen, we have a goal. We're going to remain professional. We're going to remain unbiased. Let's get to that goal. If you're not about that goal, if you want to go and do whatever no, we're not about that. So that's the only way to get things working. But the positive stuff, the positive things that we do not get enough commercial time. We had a charity event to build a community center in New York. That's what the Smash Brothers thing was about, to build a community center, to get donations, to have SOS Gamers contact the mayor, give them the money that we were going to raise and try to get some funding from the city to build a community center to then help organizations like this. The community center would be built solely to host esports competitions. And then guys like this can just, you don't have to rent it out. It's already paid for. But that got blacklisted, but then the situation on Kotaku not too recently with the event that happened at Combo Breaker gets put online. And then everyone misses the good, but then all that's put out is the bad. The community, and this is the answer to your question, is the community has to cut the nonsense out. We ourselves have to cut out that little click crap and get it together and be more professional. And which is why I said organizations like ESL, they want to work with us, but they got to be careful, because getting involved, when they get involved like that, and then we get this nonsense out there, it makes them look bad. So there are like policies and regulations that they got to work. So we got to work on our act.
Okay, so I actually have a question. This is to you, Assad, from ESL. The panel here mentioned something very important. We spoke about this in different topics, but it's all the same thing, and that's promotion. Promotion is the big key. Whether it's the history, whether it's the sensationalization of the player, or marketing, whatever the case may be. And my question to you is, the community can provide you with the context, but can ESL create a platform to market the context into content to help build our players up, just like how Twitch and Cross Counter and all those other media platforms in the West promotes their guys, because we have a lot of great talent in New York, New Jersey, and when I say New York, I'm really talking about the tri-state. I don't want it to just be anyone to just think New York, because the New York esports scene is actually really the three states, New York, New Jersey, and Philadelphia. Shout outs to Big E Gaming. So my question to you is, can we, if we provide you with the players and the context, can ESL promote those players and sensationalize and market them so that the people watching can get more entrenched into the competitive gaming? And I'm not just talking about fighting games, I'm just talking about any genre there is.
So if you guys have been following ESL 1 Frankfurt, which just finished this weekend, and we have ESL 1 Cologne, which is going to be one of the biggest events, esports events of all time. Every time we have an event like that, we do have a video series beforehand. So for ESL 1 Frankfurt, which is a Dota 2 event we were following around RTZ, we were following around Evil Geniuses, and we were creating a whole storyline behind them to show, because Evil Geniuses is split into two different teams essentially, so we're showing the rivalry between RTZ and PPD. And for ESL 1 Cologne, which is a CSGO event, we're going to have promotion around Olaf Meister, him coming back to Fnatic and all that. We're going to do the same thing with ESL 1 New York. The thing is, we're kind of focusing on the other ESL 1s right now. ESL 1 New York is in October, so it's a little bit further away. And we are looking to create, video pieces around that. So if there is good New York talent, if there is a good storyline behind it, of course we want to create it in a video series because we want to attract the New York players in there. So there's definitely, there's interest on us, so we want to create it. And a lot of the times, there's people, so this is the first year in New York, ESL has a New York office, right? So a lot of the times we have ESL 1 before in New York, it's been done through Germany, and there's no German colleagues here, but they don't know US. So ESL 1 New York, I've always lived in New York. I've been working in New York esports for a decade now. So I know ESL, I know New York, and I know how to promote it. So if we're gonna find good talent in New York, we're gonna create video series around them, whether it's, whatever it may be, and we'll use that to promote ESL 1 New York as well.
Yeah, the special thing about Twitch, what makes it so awesome is the ability for the user, is the chat, really. I mean, it's the way the viewers can engage, right? And you just gotta imagine every viewer, everyone who's gonna come to the ESL 1 event, just imagine them wearing a shirt that says "Make me feel special," right? That's actually just a good rule of business in general. You just make them feel special. You make them engage. You make them crowdsource the decision making. Maybe take a page out of the International's book and just crowdfund the thing, and maybe make them power an all-star match and unlock some original content, and then you'll fill it.
Well, thank you guys. I want to give a big a hand clap for the panelists. Thank you guys for sharing your knowledge. I really feel like really feel like the gaming scene is gonna be a little different after this, hopefully. Thank you guys also for coming out. We're hopefully gonna be doing more events like this. Please spread the word. Thank you, ESL, for coming out. And from now, I guess we kind of have to leave. You can't stay here.
Big shout out.
Also, kind of an open moment. All of you will be getting a copy of Game Chat. Just letting you know. Check it out later. Well, later on this week. So, thank you guys. Thank you.